At the recent APEC South Korea summit in Busan, South Korea, Trump and Xi held a bilateral meeting to reach an agreement on tariffs and trade measures such as US soybeans and Chinese rare earth. It was an interesting negotiation, and the analytics called it a good beginning, though many issues remain unsolved and the deep mistrust persists. Today, we share a study on negotiation behaviors across different cultures to better understand these negotiation dynamics by Aslani and colleagues in 2016. For decades, researchers explained cultural differences using the terms like individualism versus collectivism or independence versus interdependence, mainly comparing Western and Eastern societies. But Aslani and colleagues argue that this is not enough. They draw from Long and Cohen's framework, which adds a third type of culture, the honor culture, common in the Middle East, Latin America, and parts of South Asia. The three culture logics of self-worth are completely different. For dignity cultures like the US, self-worth comes from within. People value autonomy and fairness, and negotiation is about reaching a mutually beneficial deal. For faith cultures like China, self-worth depends on fulfilling social roles and maintaining harmony. The goal is to save face, yours and the other person's, while preserving stability in relationships. For honor cultures like Qatar, self-worth is tied to reputation, yours, your families, and your groups. Negotiation can feel like a test of strength, where protecting or enhancing honor is just as important as the deal itself. To test how these cultures shape negotiation behavior, Aslani and colleagues ran a face-to-face negotiation simulation, a business scenario between two entrepreneurs trying to open a shared shop. Participants came from the US, dignity culture, China, faith culture, and Qatar, honor culture. And they measured competitive aspirations, which is how much each person wanted to outperform their partner. Negotiation strategies like information sharing, which is cooperative, versus influence tactics, which is competitive or emotional persuasion. And outcomes, especially joint gains, which is how much total value the pair created together. Researchers found that in terms of competitive aspirations, the main percentage of value claimed by negotiators from the US, China, and Qatar are dignity, faith, and honor. Negotiators from US assume self-worth is internal and stable. They set moderate, fairness-oriented goals, aiming for mutual gain rather than dominance. Chinese faith negotiators want to avoid loss of standing and are trying not to appear weak and naive to partners or observers. Honor negotiators link self-worth to public reputation. They pursue status-affirming outcomes and feel pressure to outperform their counterparts to maintain honor. Overall, negotiators from Qatar and China showed higher competitive aspirations. They wanted to win more than their partners. American negotiators were less focused on the outperforming others' behavior. Their sense of dignity wasn't easily threatened. When it comes to strategy, Qatari and Chinese participants used more influence tactics, such as emotional appeals, pressure, or even showing anger than Americans. Americans relied more on information sharing, ask questions, and exploring mutual interests. For the negotiation tone, US negotiators use a direct and task-oriented tone, and Chinese negotiators use an indirect, status-conscious, and emotionally controlled tone, while Qatari negotiators use an expressive but status-sensitive and assertive tone to avoid dishonor. In terms of outcomes, US team achieved higher joint gains, meaning both parties walked away with better overall results. In contrast, Chinese and Qatari teams achieved lower total gains, and the distribution was more uneven, more of a win-lose situation. Coming back to the Xi-Trump negotiation, China emphasized avoiding confrontation, framing the outcome as in-depth exchange, reached consensus, rather than we beat you. Even during the competitive process, there was a strong push on rare earth and tariffs. While the US side under Trump emphasized measurable concessions, tariff cuts, soil purchases, and treated negotiation as a transaction that aligns more with dignity culture logic. In February 2025, Qatar signed a 5-year agreement with the US company Scale AI to deploy AI tools in government services, develop more than 50 possible uses of AI for Qatar's government over the next 5 years. From the owner culture lenses, Qatar is signaling ambition, becoming an AI leader in the region. Inviting a major US firm to partner gives Qatar prestige and recognition. Because of the prestige motive, Qatar may be less concerned purely with cost return and more with how the deal looks regionally that can influence negotiation strategy. For instance, less transparency, more emphasis on public ceremony, and maybe higher demands. Note that negotiations in East Asia and the Middle East are often competitive, not because people dislike harmony, but because they're trying to establish status and trust in a new relationship. So as a future leader, how would you apply these cultural differences in your next negotiation? Keep in mind what people from different cultures value and adapt your strategy properly. Thanks for watching.